Hi everyone, it's Suzanne Wagner, and today is Saturday, the 21st of March, 2020. And because we are kind of all quarantined off in our houses, I thought I would do the astrology and the numerology and my quote and my blog today as a video chat for those of you that want some entertainment. So the first thing is that this astrology right here is going to get more and more constrained, and it's going to get more and more tight. And because of that, I expect probably Sunday evening, I'm going to be doing the blog and the numerology for the 22nd, which is tomorrow. So I expect there to be some sort of an announcement that, they're going to bring in the National Guard and they're going to make everybody stay in their home and stuff like that. And they're going to force compliance. And so you have this weekend to kind of get your groceries and kind of be ready to be cordoned off for about 2 weeks at least. It's probably going to be more like 8, but I know it's practically impossible to keep enough food for 8 weeks. But I want you all to be as prepared and as ready as you possibly can for this. Again, think of your neighbors, think of the elderly, think of the people that might need some extra help. And so, this is one of those really bizarre, tricky times. Unfortunately, it will pass. It absolutely will pass, but it will bring up a lot of stuff for people. And Americans are freedom fighters, and they like to be able to do their own thing their own way. And all of us have had our schedules radically changed, like, I can't do my ballet bar class and I can't do some of the things that I would normally do out of safety and concern for others, because most of the people in my ballet bar class are older. So you have to protect those that need the protection the most, and just to be smart. I mean, if we all do what we're supposed to do and we all quarantine and we all isolate, this could be over quickly. Look at China. I mean, China is already not reporting any new cases. And yes, it's been since probably the middle of January, to now, but that was 2 months, and it kind of eased off. And so, yes, as the weather gets warmer, that will also help this, but we all want to be safe and secure and stable. So, one of the things that I just want to point out, that in my journey for herbology and everything that I have done in my life, I have a few suggestions. Not that there aren't a lot of suggestions up there. And while I don't pretend to be the expert, I do have a lot of people that are holistic MDs and people that are doing a lot of the research. And so I'm just going to, on a personal level, share what I think are my best ideas and insights. And as soon as I say some of these, I know that there are people that are going to countermand me. And so just kind of, I recognize fully that every person's chemistry is different, and everybody absorbs things chemically different. And so some things work for people and some things don't work for people. And so you really do need to listen to your own chemistry. I know that I have really odd chemistry, and my joke with my ex-husband was that if I took the herbs that he took in a day, I'd probably be dead, because he could handle a lot of stimulants and I can't handle stimulants at all. So I recognize that, you have to listen to your body, and you have to try things, and you have to decide whether something is actually working for you or not. Okay, so starting with that, just to kind of give people some ideas and insights. Again, not pretending to be the expert, simply putting suggestions out as I say this. Obviously, vitamin D is a really important one. They actually say that if you take 2 or 3 25 milligrams of vitamin D, it does help deflect the disease. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there about vitamin C. Vitamin C is one of those great, great, great things, obviously. And so you want to make it so that it's absorbable vitamin C, because some people, they can't absorb certain types of vitamin C. So make sure it's the type you can do. Out there, you can get quercetin with nettle combined, which is probably the best combination to kind of work with. Licorice is also a really good herb in this situation, but licorice is one of those herbs that you can only take for 2 weeks, and then it actually kind of goes in the reverse direction of where it started. So If you feel yourself starting to, take something, then take it for 2 weeks and then stop for a week and then take it for 2 weeks and stop. So it's one of those things that you can't take all the time. Chinese skull cap, which I know sounds like an odd thing, but Chinese skull cap is something that works really well for viruses. Red marine algae, which I know you can get on Amazon. Probably most of these you can get on Amazon. Green tea is the best. So especially if you have a sore throat, all hot things, the virus is very sensitive to heat. So, hot foods, hot soups, hot tea, hot green tea, things like that are great. Resveratrol, which is in grapes, and it's in grape juice, and it's in red wine. Not that I want everybody to be drinking red wine, but maybe we all want to be drinking red wine. Maybe it would be better. It would be easier if we were all drinking red wine. If I didn't fall asleep every time I drank red wine, I would probably drink it. So anyway, the suggestion from my holistic MD friends is to do 250 micrograms 3 times a day. So 250s 3 times a day. Elderberry, there's a lot of conversation going on there around elderberry. Some people, again, this doesn't work, but some people it does. So, you kind of have to gauge it. Garlic, obviously. I bought tons of garlic. I'm putting garlic in all my food at the moment, except breakfast, obviously, but I'm putting garlic in everything and, putting like 4 cloves in. So there's quite a bit of garlic. Then in the Chinese medicine herb reality, there is a herb that's called Dahuang, Dahuang, and this is very good for viruses. And then also Heishou Wu, which is spelled HESHOUWU, and this actually does have resveratrol in it. So sometimes you don't have to do both. If you have the Heishou Wu, you may not want to do as much resveratrol or something like that. So those are my suggestions from my lifelong exploration in herbology, not being the expert, but like I said, having friends that are holistic MDs and talking with them. So there you go. So that's a way to kind of help yourself and protect yourself. So what I did was I bought a bottle for everybody in my family. And so just to kind of do it as a preventative to kind of strengthen your system and all that good stuff. Okay. So let's get to, all of this crazy astrology and numerology. So we're doing the numerology and the astrology for March 22nd, 2020. So if you add that whole thing up, you get the 11. The 11 can contract down to a 2. So if you add the 1 and the 1 together, you can actually get a 2. And so you can get 2 sides of this. And what I find whenever you hit a pure 11 day, which is what we're at tomorrow, is that, usually people pick one side or the other. Occasionally you have this kind of expansion contraction thing. And so you feel like you're trying to break out of a block and you can't quite break out because it's like an egg around your head. And so you're trying to break out of this egg. But what'll happen, I think, under this astrology with the numerology is that the 11 is going to collapse into the 2 for some people. Now, I want to keep everybody in a higher consciousness place and a transcendental place and an awake place, but people can collapse that 11 down into a 2, which would put it into a negative mind position, anger, resentment, fear, and not knowing how to handle that, so that then they attack or they lash out. So I expect tomorrow to be a day that can bring turmoil and some sort of a magnification of the obvious intensity that's been building for a long time. And I think part of this is because it has been intense for so long and people have been trying so hard to hold everything in for so long that if you get one trigger, it's kind of like the camel, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like one more thing can make certain people snap. So just remember that some people move fear through their body as anger because they tend to be afraid to show their weakness. So they would rather be angry, aggressive, loud, obnoxious, and kind of intense than to look weak, depressed, collapsed, something like that. Now, Such an action is not helpful in times such as these because you will stir other people up. So I kind of noticed that the anger jumps around. So like if you blow, the anger blows, and then then that person blows, and then that person blows because you set them off. It's kind of like a fire that starts jumping out of the fire and spark. These little ashes that are on fire, and they spark everybody else. So kind of know if I swear sometimes people are not responsible with anger, that they don't understand that their anger is it's like an infection itself. It's like a virus itself. And so it lashes out and you feel better, and then other people feel worse. And so then they will suddenly lash out. And so you get this repeating pattern of dysfunction, which is never good. So it's better to say, wow, I just got really angry right now. I can feel myself wanting to blow. I felt what you said put more pressure on me, and I just don't know what to do now. And it's better to say it like that, so everybody goes, whoa, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. Now I know we cannot change human behavior. I know that while all men are created equal, not all men or women are on an equal level. And so everyone has a different place that they're really great, and a different place that they're really working on. And there's no judgment in that, but just kind of recognize that you need to take a look at where people are at before you kind of leap in, so that they can navigate. Okay, so some people have fewer coping skills and introspective abilities to make sense out of this moment. And also the hard truth of this moment can shock them out of their own illusions. So be very kind, speak very softly, listen to other people's concerns, and guide them through to a new pattern of behavior if at all possible. Okay, in the astrology, most of Sunday can be very pleasant, but in the evening, you've got two sides of this. On one side, I'd say, let's everybody sit down and watch a great movie on Netflix or something, listen to music, do some meditation. But the later Sunday gets, the less you benefit from attempting to force any issue. You cannot change what is and what is about to happen. You cannot make this virus's progress move any faster. If ever there was a moment that you're going to learn surrender, it's going to be in the next 2 months. And this is going to be really different for a lot of people that have operated in their life from a place of pushing. So Mars aligns with Pluto, and it makes you want to assert yourself and be very powerful, but you're kind of trapped, right? You're trapped in your house, and you're trapped in this cycle, and you cannot act or move in the ways that you used to allow you to shift this intensity off your body. I remember when I was a ballet dancer, and I tore my Achilles tendon, and I talked to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, just so you know, you aren't going to be able to do anything for 6 weeks. I mean, you won't be able to walk. You can't do anything on this foot for 6 weeks. And I've learned something about athletes and professional people that move a lot, is that they channel all of their energy and anger, especially through their physicality. It's their coping mechanism, and it's how they have learned to get rid of it and de-stress it and transform it, which is really great. But the moment you take a very athletic physical person and you slow them down, what happens is that all that anger is going to come up. And he said, so don't throw your dog against the wall. And I was like, what is he talking about? I'm not going to throw my dog against the wall. Like, this is crazy. And within 2 weeks, I was not happy. I was really angry. It's like all this anger started to bubble up on the inside. And even many years later, when I was doing Vipassana, where you sit and meditate for 10 days, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, it was incredible, like sitting there for long periods of time, how much anger I had on the inside that I had not successfully emotionally understood, maybe. I'd learned how to move it, but I hadn't learned how to understand it or listen to it or figure out the sweetheart message in the anger, and to kind of look at where it was really for me about a boundary override. So, where I allowed other people to override my boundaries. And why I bring up this long thing is because being confined into your house, if you haven't processed it the way I hadn't processed it when I was in my 20s, you're going to want to lash out at somebody else. You're going to want to blame somebody else for how you're feeling. And I want everybody to take responsibility for actually what they're feeling. So know that the discomfort is going to continue to accelerate. And for some, that's going to make them snap. And so, kind of know that this is going to be a lesson in surrender and self-control. Some people will be looking to pick a fight. I don't want you to bite when that happens. And don't give others an excuse to make that happen. Okay. And sometimes it's going to happen anyway. It's like some people are picking a fight, and then they're going to blow. And so you can feel that tension. I, as a psychic, can feel that tension. I've been feeling that tension build for a while. So I know we're coming into a very excessive snap point. So then with Saturn in Aquarius, which it went into today, which is Saturday the 21st, but this is for Sunday the 22nd. Thinking and acting need to be in alignment with your highest self. And so while this is going to be awesome and it's going to be great for the sciences and technology, and God knows we need as much help as we can get with the coronavirus pandemic, this is an opportunity to connect also more deeply with those you love. So you have time to connect, call, care for, and share stories. The Saturn going into Aquarius is very social. And I know that that's sort of contrary because we're all stuck in a house, but notice that, you've been calling people you probably haven't talked to really regularly, or calling people to check on them, and notice you have the time to do that. And I want you to come from that place of real genuine caring. Remember, everyone is under stress. And in this time of great emotional turmoil, do not make unreasonable expectations on others or those you love. That's a sure way to manifest even more disappointments because people are so on their edge. And so while on one level, you're like, hey, we've got all this time, let's, do this huge house project. Some people emotionally may not be there. They may feel like they can't even think something through. And Saturn in Aquarius is feeling a little loopy for me at the moment. And so what I can tell you is that for me, I feel like I keep forgetting things. Like I used my keys and then I put my keys down and I said, oh, put them right here so you'll remember. And then of course I couldn't remember. It's that classic thing, right? So, but anyway, it took me like 20 minutes to kind of stop, think about it and go, okay, where would you have put the keys? And so when you suddenly add on another massive project onto somebody, they might feel like they can't do it today. Especially on Sunday. Okay, like maybe down the road as we calm down and we get used to this new routine, we can't, but you never know. Now, Mercury is in Pisces, sextiling Uranus in Taurus. And if everything feels unconventional, different, and new, you're right. It absolutely is. And it allows you to feel into another way of doing and being. I mean, you clearly have to reject thoughts and actions that place you in danger. You will notice that clear discrepancy between spiritual illusions that in the past might have in some sort of crazy way held some substance, but now they're going to seem like childish illusions. And, now those illusions reveal themselves to be what they really were, which were immature perspectives and thoughts, simplistic thoughts, spiritual metaphorical thoughts that maybe in this moment in time, based on the reality, don't hold any water. Okay. The moon in Pisces is sextiling Venus in Taurus. And so just be really adaptable and courteous. And just remember, fighting is not worth it under this. And then the moon conjunction with Neptune is perfect because you get to dream and be passive. And I'm like, yay, we get to dream and be passive right now. And pushing leads to imbalance, nervousness, and anxiety. And so just notice the loneliness and recognize it as an opportunity to discover yourself more fully. Now, tomorrow, the Mars and Pluto conjunct. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And, I know that everybody's saying, oh my God, it just seems like all the astrology is a big deal. And I'm like, it is a big deal. Like a lot of this astrology hasn't happened in like, my God, 1,000 years. I mean, it's like, or 800 years. I mean, it's a big deal. Like 1232 was the last time some of this astrology hit. So, yes, we are probably, the astrologers are saying, yeah, like this. So Mars and Pluto conjunct basically is a push for those in authority to enact power over others. Therefore, I expect our government to declare some sort of act that enrolls the military and the National Guard because of requiring people to stay inside and isolate. I expect it's because they're trying to stop. The reasoning is going to be that they're going to try and stop looting and robberies and, destroying of property and stuff like that because of people being pissed off and people being required to stay inside and to isolate. And I expect it to happen in the evening because of this particular conjunction, because it's happening at 10 o'clock at night. And so Americans, naturally like to do what they like to do when they like to do it. And having some sort of forced compliance is bound to make some of those people react with violence and frustration. And, we are not China. I mean, we are not a country that's been bred to do what the government says to do. And so there are a lot of people that are, are going to not want to conform and get really frustrated. So just kind of remember that you need to be sensible. You need to avoid anything that puts you and your family in danger. There are a lot of hazards that are still in front of us over the rest of this year, that are obvious as well as hidden. And this virus seems hidden, and the frustration that this creates makes someone to lash out at someone or something. So stay calm and recognize that this will pass. So fighting over control that no one has is a sign of an immature mind. It is possible that in certain areas, anger can explode, fueled by all the intensity that we have all lived through for the last 4 years. And so I want you to do your best to channel such huge energies in constructive ways. And the truth is that we are tearing down an old, antiquated way of being. In this moment, we recognize that we are standing on the rubble of our past life, and now we are going to need to rebuild. And clearly we are being tested, and clearly we are being shown how human actions, corporations, and businesses are toxic to the natural world. And so notice that Venice is shut down, and all of a sudden the dolphins are coming in because the waters are clear. So notice that, notice the pollution over China has gone away, and Mother Earth has literally created this virus in order to show us that, I'm going to make you stop and notice what's happening and what happens to the world and how fast the earth can recover if we make choices that are conscious and purposeful, not just for those making the money, but for the greater good of all. I know I'm lecturing. Sorry about that. It just is so fascinating to me that, literally all this pollution has stopped because we're not manufacturing things. And how can we get manufacturing companies to work in a more holistic way? Okay, so my quote for the day is that maturity comes when it's too late. Did you ever notice that? So, I learn by making the mistakes. I learn by messing it up. I learn by having it fail. And that's when I go, I need to change. So my quote is, maturity comes when it is too late. That is what makes you never forget it. So, those bad mistakes that you never make. I mean, my joke with the angels and guides is that literally only 3 times did I go against my intuitive knowingness. And the first time was so severe that the second time I was still a lot more careful. And then the third time a lot more careful still. But now, because I'm 59 years old, I can tell you that I am ridiculously proud of myself that I listened to every single prompting that the universe has given me for the last 4 years. And so because of that, I am in this moment in a perfect place, perfectly safe, on land, water, solar. And so I literally listened and I set up myself perfectly for this moment. And so I'm not in a panic. And I say that to everybody because from this point on, I want you to listen. I want you to listen to your own knowingness, because what I need to do for me is going to be different than what you need to do for you. So just kind of pay attention to what it is that is important for you, and move when you feel prompted. Then I wanted to also bring in a quote from John Burroughs, and he said, "A man can fail many times, but he isn't a failure until he begins to blame someone else." So just contemplate that for a minute. Yeah, so, just don't blame anybody else. I think we want to blame somebody for a situation, even when we were told again and again and again to prepare and to be ready for something, and then we still want to blame other people for us not being ready. Never, never a good thing. Okay, so my blog for today is to remember that there's going to be some sort of decree on Sunday that everyone is going to be confined for at least 2 weeks, and you have this weekend to prepare, which is why I'm putting this video out now. Do the shopping that allows you to hunker down for at least that amount of time. I expect people to overreact with some aggression and violence in response to the nature of this crisis, and to recognize that some people, that this is just the nature of humanity and they need to get angry. And I want you to stay calm. I want you to protect those you love. I want you to, realize that, this is a moment to contemplate, to rethink things, to surrender, to meditate, to not cause more suffering, to not create more karma. There's enough happening right now already, and I personally don't want to do anything that causes more suffering than is already happening. So karma is always worse when you do things when others are suffering. In fact, it can be tenfold worse. So never take that type of karma on knowingly. And I say that for anybody who happens to listen to this that then gets angry and wants to go out and loot or steal or destroy other people's property or anything like that. Like, literally, the karmic consequence is 10 times what it would be otherwise. So if people are scared and suffering, and then you go and intentionally do something for your own end, and you're not considering the damage and the suffering that you're causing others, whoa, I just don't want to be you in the next lifetime. So stay close to your family, have fun, play games, watch movies, read all the books that you've not been reading. I'm going through my recipes and trying to come up with some really creative, unusual things to try. Do things that support everybody and support the greater good, and pay attention to your neighbors. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and I hope that you all are safe and sound, and I'll talk to you probably tomorrow. Okay, bye.